All right, you folks are all set to begin.
All right. Oops, sorry. Today is Monday, August 8th at 4 o'clock. This is the Communications Committee meeting. I'm calling this meeting to order. First, we'll do roll call, and I see Councillor Johnson's here with me in the room, and Councillor Seither is on virtually. So the next item is approval of the June 13th, 2022 meeting minutes. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Oh, wait, no, we have to do a roll call because April's virtual. Okay, so Councillor Seither,
Yes.
Councillor Johnson,
I was not here, but I read them, yes.
and I've read them myself, so I'm a yes. Next is a discussion to select the next Councillor Corner Live topics. We also probably need to think about date and location as well. So one of the items that I had suggested at our last workshop, or one of our workshops, was potentially to have a conversation around defining public benefit, which was something that came up in our last Councillor Corner, where residents had shared that as an idea. So that was one item. But before choosing that, I just wanted to see if there were other topics that others might want to suggest that we do for the next Councillor Corner Live.
I do wonder, John, if we could combine the idea behind public engagement and public benefit into one Councillor Corner. I know that they're not necessarily adjacent ideas, but it really kind of is two separate topics. But I don't know if either topic has enough oomph to pull a large crowd, but maybe if we could find a way to have both conversations, that might be more dynamic for people.
What do you think, Councillor Johnson?
Well, thank you.
Full service.
I don't know if blending two topics that aren't related would work. Let me tell you. I was a little soft on the public benefit at first, but then I really think it's how you advertise it to get the people drawn in. Everybody knows that anybody comes for an exemption, they need to demonstrate public benefit. So I think if you wrapped it around that context, I think you'll have plenty of people show up. It's just my thoughts.
I think, to me too, I think like if people, I mean, you've seen it already in the paper where people are talking about other developments that are coming. So I think
Yes.
if it's marketed as, you know, there will likely be more of these exemption requests, and part of that is justifying public benefit. That can mean many things, like we have in Exhibit A, but we need help better understanding from the public what they
Right.
see as sufficient public benefit. Because again, it could be about conservation, it could be about housing, it could be about, you know, all kinds of different things that could get different people based on what they care about to come out and talk. So
Yep, and I think you could actually even lead some of the conversation with some of the known items that we know are coming over the transit.
I agree with you. I think how you advertise it helps in giving
Yep.
examples, because public benefit, just saying that without anyone following along or having context doesn't really speak to much, but being able to outline it and tie it to a current topic makes it more relevant.
I think that defining public benefit in the context of GMO exemptions is a great Councillor Corner Live topic, because I think it's one that is not black and white. It's incredibly subjective, and I think getting some input, and I think you're going to get a wide range of, I expect you're going to get a wide range of comments from those, as you said, that are going to talk about recreation public benefit, are going to talk about financial public benefit, are going to talk about all of those things. I think that's really where the council could use some input from the constituency about what that is that's important to them. Because right now, I think that's been the biggest question mark with the exemption process is, what is this? And how should the council say there's sufficient public benefit to this project to allow for an exemption to our ordinance? And I think my other comment about public engagement, I think that Counselor Corner Live is effectively public engagement,
Yes.
right? So having a topic about the exercise that you're going through seems kind of redundant to me. Not to say that we can't take ideas on other forms of public engagement. I think that's kind of an open question that this committee is tasked with dealing with. But I think it would be, I think it's a great subject for Counselor Corner Live.
Mhm.
How do you determine and define public benefit?
Yeah, I think when it comes to public engagement, you know, really for me, I think maybe through the survey, which we'll talk about in a little bit, might give us some indicator. But I think for me, when it comes to public engagement, what that really is where I think it could be of value, and it can even factor into some of this a little bit. Maybe not like the topic, but like we can probably get there through some questions we might ask the group, is really about participation in the decision-making process. And do people feel like they're given the right time and opportunity to do that, which is different than just like, how do we engage them? But like, as we're going through like a GMO exemption, what would they like to see as how they're involved, or what would they like to see from the council as we go through that process? Because again, I think part of the challenge, at least with this, the GMO stuff, is this is the first one we're doing. And so we're kind of building the plane while we're flying it. And so I think that gives maybe some people certain impressions that are really, you know, again, their impression of how this is going. And it would be good to understand, like, where do they see the opportunity for us to engage differently as we go through these exemptions, maybe. So
The only other thing I think then, if we do decide to go that route, then the timing is everything,
mhm,
because I think there's going to be an exemption request coming soon,
mhm.
and it would be great to have this before the request.
Yeah.
I might add that I think there's probably a place for, you know, I think one of the questions I had about the first Counselor Corner Live event was, it was around growth, when there was a very specific, I guess, example of growth, right? And I think that kind of colored some of I mean, not that it wasn't relevant discussion, because it absolutely was. But I think I think there's a real benefit to doing Counselor Corner Live events when there's not a specific thing right there. And so I think that the broader conversation around public benefit, I think there's value to that, without saying, well, what's the public benefit in the context of this one specific project? You know,
Yeah.
not to say that that's not relevant, it is. But I think having a broader conversation about what in this community, how do we define public benefit? What should the council consider when making these exemptions? I think there's some value to having that kind of philosophical discussion,
Yeah.
if you will.
It's
Okay.
just a matter of, are you gonna get as many people in attendance for something that doesn't tie to a specific?
Sure.
Well, my hope is we'll get at least one with the person who recommended it. So
There you go.
that would be good.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, I think I could see this. Again, I think marketing this one is going to be a little bit more, like, I don't know if we want to use the term public benefit, because I don't know, to your point, does that mean anything? But if it's more positioned as like, we're going to grow, we need to make decisions and trade-offs. What are the right things that this community would like to see, that they feel like we could grow with those, you know, trade-offs that are provided, or something that is like a little bit less, because I feel like public benefit is our term, not necessarily a term the public would use.
I think putting in the context of, you know, our growth management ordinance, everyone's very familiar with GMO at this point. I think those who are paying attention allows for exemptions to be made in the event the project brings forward a public benefit. How do we define public benefit?
Yeah.
And we want to hear from you.
Mhm.
I think it removes the question of what is public benefit in the context of the Downs project.
Yeah.
I think it's in the context of exemptions to our GMO. What should the council be looking for
Mhm.
and defining? How should they be defining public benefit?
Yep.
And I think that's a great broad, because I think, again, that's how you're gonna get that diverse perspective. This is what I think meets that definition of public benefit as John Q. Citizen.
All right, so unless there's other ideas, I'm hearing this will be the topic. Let's talk a little bit about timing and dates, because again, I think we were originally trying to do these every other month. So if we were to try and stick to that, I think we would try and do something by the end of August. I don't know if that's feasible.
It's probably not.
So maybe we push this, recommend to do this in September at some point. But school will be starting, so we got to think about.
So late September, maybe, would that work? You know, I'm sure the hectic of the school start is the
Mhm.
first couple of weeks, maybe, or maybe not. I'll defer to the expert on the committee.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of asking people to do one more thing, you know, the first 2 weeks of school, trying to attend a public meeting is probably a lot for parents who have kids in the district, just because those first 2 weeks are,
Yep.
you know, a settling in phase. So I would recommend that we push it out past the 15th if we're gonna go into September.
Okay.
April, do you think it's really too quick to get something before the end of August?
I think if we shot for the week of the 29th, but again, like with the staggered school start, I know some of the kids do start that week. And so
Mhm.
if I was to look and say, could we push it as early as the week of the 22nd? I don't know. That's only 2 weeks. What do you guys think? I feel like this is the kind of thing that Allison has so successfully been able to advertise for. Now people understand what these things are. I don't know that people need necessarily more than 2 weeks lead time to plan.
If I can just try, I agree. I think that this isn't intended to be where people bring forward really polished proposals. I mean, this is the challenge we have. What are your thoughts on it? And I think sometimes it can be not derailed, but when you again, it's really just to be almost the organic bottom stage of a conversation. And so I think there's some value to I don't think there's a need to like program it out 6 weeks. I also, I think the last event we did, you know, despite really trying to promote it, I had people say, well, I just heard about this, you know, yesterday or today. And it was like, well, I don't really know what to tell you because we did try to promote it weeks ahead of time. And we put it in the newsletter, and maybe 2 weeks is too quick. I guess I'll turn it over to Allison, but I don't think that this is something that is not intended to have a presentation or anything really final. It's intended to be an organic conversation.
I think the most interest in an event comes within the 2 weeks prior. Like, I don't know how much advertising I could do before that. And if we're finalizing the date now, it could be in the 15th newsletter, which is what we would aim for, to get more people to be aware of it. It gives us time to put it in the leader, and the social push comes more, or social media comes more like within that 2 weeks.
And there are no decisions being made at the meeting, right? It's just share your thoughts. And this is absolutely one where I think written comments can be provided as well.
Yeah.
So I didn't quite understand. Do you say 2 weeks was sufficient for you?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because that's when people are really starting to pay attention anyways. Not as many people are like looking out like a month ahead
Okay.
to events.
I mean, I'm
That's
comfortable
fine.
if we wanted to try and do 2 weeks. So are we saying, we've been doing these mostly on Thursdays. So would we want to target the 25th?
I think that makes sense.
And I guess we did 6 PM for the sustainability one, and I feel like that seemed to work as a good time. And maybe this is just like the general rule of thumb. Maybe we always, part of this can be to create consistency, so that if we are doing these every other month, if we start to say we're going to do them on the 4th Thursday at 6 PM, that at least then it's less promotion, because people will know 4th Thursday, 6
Right.
PM is the next Counselor Corner Live.
So you're thinking public safety or here?
Do you guys have a preference? I both are fine. I mean, the
It's-
public safety one was good, I thought.
Yeah, as far as watching as a viewer at home, I mean, maybe it depends on what the equipment is. It was easier to hear when it was in here. It was harder to
Okay.
hear at public safety. And I think like the layout of people like being in rows
Mhm.
made it kind of hard, but that's not to say it couldn't be improved with different equipment or cameras or something.
Is that room always set up that way? And is it more of a hassle to change that room?
I think it's kind of standard default setup, just like this one, it's kind of the setup, but I don't think it's difficult with just a few days notice to set
Okay.
up differently if you wanted to.
Because they have all the tables there too. That's the difference here. Here it's,
Right.
it seems like we have less tables. I don't know, Counselor Scyther, did you have a preference for either?
Time or location?
You're on mute.
I think probably chambers, just in terms of the technology piece is probably a little bit easier. But I thought that the in-person feel at the public safety building felt as good. So in that sense, I don't have a preference.
Mhm. So maybe we can just check availability for the 25th, and if, I mean, it might come down to that if there's some other events scheduled.
So sanitary district is scheduled for that evening in council chambers, which sounds right. They probably are usually the fourth Thursday. That's probably what we fell into last time too.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So good news is we're right on track. We can try the public safety building and try to set it up differently and see if that will be better use of the owl.
Sure.
I think we weren't trying to take as many virtual comments
Yeah.
during the last one.
Mhm.
So I certainly think giving that as an option, but I think the preference really was in-person discussion. I think it's kind of where we migrated to last time too. We
Yeah.
can set up the room differently to
Mhm.
facilitate that.
Great. So it sounds like August 25th, 6 PM, focus on the topic is how do we define public benefit? Can I get a motion for that?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, Counselor Scyther,
yes.
Counselor Johnson,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So, all right, so I will let John know in case he wants to add this as a what do we need to do, an action item or a non-action item for the 17th? Non-action item for the 17th. And I'll let the rest of the council know in case anyone has any other thoughts or concerns. All right, so moving on to item 5.
I have
This is,
one more thing
okay.
to say for that. Yeah, I was just thinking like, since this is gonna be the third one that we're doing, maybe it would be a good opportunity to, well, I don't know, I can't remember if we have people register in advance, but it could be good to kind of send out a survey and gauge what people are thinking as far as like how the structure and the format is going, what the topics are, if they had any other ideas of topics, like just kind of do a survey to gauge how it's going.
I think that'll be
Since
good.
it's still kind of new, but in a rhythm.
It's a good idea. All right, moving on to item number 5, survey updates, public engagement preferences. So this is going from a couple meetings back where Allison took an initial stab at putting together a survey to try and better understand how the public prefers to be engaged. And we had a conversation at our last meeting, I think, where we reviewed it. And then I think you've made some,
Yeah, I think when
Changes.
we discussed it last time, I had them all as individual questions. Was this the first one?
I think this is version
Yeah.
2. B2,
Okay.
is that what you want?
This is the one I missed.
Can you go to the other one?
Yeah.
Thank you. When we talked about it last time, it was a way to kind of get a sense of what people have an awareness of as far as public engagement opportunities. And I had them listed out as like individual questions for each one, like, have you participated in this? Have you done this? It seemed a little long and not really getting to the key point of like how satisfied are you with those? Like, there's a difference between the awareness piece and the satisfaction or the use of them. So we kind of talked about changing it to be more of a matrix where it lists out what the engagement opportunities are and then satisfaction level with each of those. So it simplified the survey down a lot to just like 2 staple questions. You can go to the updated version. But okay, so which of these methods have you used is the first question, and I have it as select all that apply. And we can talk about what these are, and then I kind of put them into this format of testing satisfaction. I had a few questions as far as, did I cover all of the methods correctly? And does this still get at how often they use them, or yeah, so like frequency and the awareness piece. I didn't know if we still wanted to incorporate like know if people knew that this was an option or not an option, or if it's more of just how satisfied are you with them.
I think if we can somehow factor in the frequency and awareness, because again, some of it, they just may not know, like, people may not know, I saw town committee on there, that you can actually come to a town committee meeting if you want to, and they might not know how.
Right.
There's one individual who's been coming to the transportation committee meetings who doesn't necessarily want to be on the committee, but is really interested in the topic, and so they keep coming, which is cool because you have an engaged person who wants to participate. And we have so many committees with so many topics. I'm sure if you're interested, that's an option that you could attend to learn more. Do people know that that's an option? Probably not, is my guess, or.
And then also, I didn't know how to list it in here as far as like, do you want it to be like, do you attend a public meeting or do you provide a public comment? Like if there's a difference between if attending is something that is considered public
Yeah.
engagement.
I've heard anecdotally, some people feel dissatisfied with the 3 minutes that we
Okay.
provide during public comment at not necessarily at the town council, but at the committees and stuff. And so I'm just curious if we can somehow, to your point, see if we can dig into that a little bit through this of,
Or separating out committee versus council, or you mean like comment period?
just the
versus-
comment period in
Okay.
and of itself. Do they feel satisfied when they provide it? Because I know John's definitely made a good step forward in allowing us to provide feedback back. So it would be interesting for people to say, oh yeah, I've done it and I appreciate hearing the feedback. But I know that there might be a dissatisfaction with the time. And I think Councilor Johnson, you said South Portland gives people 5 minutes. So does that make a difference? Or
Mhm.
again, do people feel like 3 minutes is too short?
I know the meeting was very long.
Yeah.
To midnight.
Yeah, I think, well, I guess I wonder, so how satisfied are you with the following engagement? I would like to hope that if someone, made a public comment at a council meeting, I mean, I guess we could say public, do you want to extend public comment at committee meeting as another option?
That's what I was wondering that.
If they say that we're not satisfied, then below you have the
Yeah,
opportunity
mhm.
to comment on it. Why I found 3 minutes was insufficient. And I recall, I think it was at a council corner live event,
Mhm.
Councilor Anderson, where someone said, I get 3 minutes at this board meeting and that's it, and it's not nearly adequate. And so I wonder if opening it up to engagement at,
Yeah.
I mean, this obviously is, but is the vision for this to just kind of target council as opposed to committees? Or do you think there's an option to do that?
We started talking about this because of council engagement, but it could expand to committee. It's overall public engagement with town officials,
Mhm.
right? So,
And maybe if we just add the public comment at committees in your grid.
okay,
And again, like we could probably overthink this left and right, but I think the important part is to get this out and just
yeah,
see what we get
see what
back.
people
and-
say, yeah.
Yeah, and that might frame us a subsequent survey we might want to do, or
Right.
even to April's earlier comment, how can we use this to maybe better frame up a counselor corner in the future on public engagement, if that comes out clearly in this, that there's opportunities
That's
for
true.
improvement. I don't know, Counselor Scyther, do you have any thoughts on the survey as you're looking at it?
Sorry, guys, it started absolutely pouring.
Oh,
My attempt to be able to hear you without listening to my kids is now being thwarted by the rain. But I do not have anything else to add. I think this.
Okay.
Okay. I added some of the standard questions that we had talked about a bit ago as far as like demographics in here, but should we keep those or it doesn't really pertain to the survey questions itself. It's more of if we want to have a standard template for surveys.
I think it'll be good to have.
Are there any other demographics that you think should be included? Age, years in Scarborough, and full, part-time?
I don't know if that is, to tell you the truth,
Needed or
needed.
there's nothing?
Duration of town, I agree.
Mm.
Your age, I don't know how relevant that is. But
Well, it's data.
Yeah.
I mean, you can choose to ignore it.
Mhm.
Say we don't really care how old you are. we don't care.
I was thinking from the receiving part, getting the survey.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I could see that that would be more relevant for like, how do you get your news, like that type of
Mhm.
question, but maybe it doesn't apply as much to this survey.
Yeah,
But it, I mean, it doesn't hurt to have it, right? I mean, this is an email.
Unless it's deterring
on
some,
the-
I mean, it's not required, but if it was deterring someone from taking the survey,
Yeah, I doubt it.
okay.
mhm.
Also, we're not asking this out.
I think it's interesting to see, just because again, like, do people, again, it would just be nice to know, like, if everybody's talking about email, yet some people in this way seem like they want better responses, and we just, if we could know that, that might help us think a little bit about next steps. I don't know. I think it's useful to have,
Okay,
but we can see what happens.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, next item is item 6, increasing e-news subscription
yeah,
brainstorming.
bringing it back.
Yeah, so we, I think originally this year talked about trying to drive up subscriptions. I want to say we made a soft goal because we did such a good job last year. So I want to say we said maybe a couple hundred or something. I can't remember the exact number.
30.
Was it 30? Was it 5? Yeah. Do you know, Allison, at this point?
I should have gotten this data beforehand, but I don't have the exact numbers offhand.
What's your feeling? What's your rough numbers?
It's gone up significantly. I don't think it's like 1,000, but we have, let me see, like the last email we sent out was to 3,200.
Oh,
Yeah.
very good.
So it goes up every time.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can look at like
Mhm.
this time last year too. So it's 3,200 for August 1st.
So the reason I wanted to put it on the agenda was because I was thinking of Summerfest coming up.
True.
And so does the town already plan to have any sort of booth or anything there where we could stand and hand out cards or?
It's a good question. We hadn't talked about doing that. Have we done that in the past?
Well,
I
I
don't-
think, did you feel the table or are you just concerts in the park?
I know, I remember that for concerts in the park, yeah.
Mhm. Are they already pretty booked for Summerfest, do you know, in terms, like, I don't want to have a booth, but
I don't think it'd be a bad idea. Even, I'm sure there's a number of different town departments that have.
Yeah.
And I don't think it would be too much to print out or more of those
No,
cards.
more
or newsletters.
postcards. Yeah, I have a stack of them. I had ordered a tablecloth that has the town logo on it that we can use for tabling. And if there's any other materials that we should have.
I would think that also just maybe printing out some editions of the newsletter.
Yeah,
so
that'd be
people can
great. And then,
see what it looks like.
and I think for elections, we had a list where people could sign up, right? Or was it just the postcards? Yeah.
mhm.
So last August, the email was sent to 2,300. And this August, it was sent to 3,200.
Wow.
Yeah.
Substantial.
I
yeah.
did add, I'm being more consistent with updating the staff list, so that's updated, but it also is a significant increase in subscribers. And I do notice that every time I send out an email, there's always people that start subscribing like right after it. And I think it's because I'll like post it on social media, and so then they get the opportunity to read it and then subscribe after that. So,
I feel like Summerfest this year will be hopefully back to normal. So that's why I think there'll be a lot more
Mhm.
people, but again, we could hand these out.
yeah,
I'm planning to go so I can be there and have a packet of cards and hand them out.
I'll hook up with you for a while.
Yeah.
great.
And then-
I can get materials together.
Share a space with another.
Or we
If I
can,
know.
or we can put up a table and booth, even if it's not staffed, again, it's only an evening thing, even if it's not
Mhm.
staffed. I think maybe having some promotional, even just copies of the newsletter,
Mhm.
maybe even printed copies for their
Mhm.
stack, but, and cards with how to sign up. I think that can just be left without, I don't think that, again, there's a big sell job or
Yeah.
ask of staff
Right,
time
yeah.
or counselor time.
Well, that'll be after the 8/15 edition, so that'll be good
Oh,
to have
perfect.
it.
Right.
Cause it's on the 19th.
Right.
So we could bring the 8/15 edition as the latest.
Yeah, and
That's
actually
great.
hang it up, have copies of it, hang, so people walking by, stop, see it,
Mhm.
look at it instead of filtering through it.
Yeah,
Probably even blow it up on the plotter.
Yeah. What day is that?
the 19th. I think it's Friday, the 19th
Friday,
is
yeah.
Summerfest. And then, again, just to kind of get ahead of it, I assume we're gonna want to try and do a booth again at the election. I think again, it'll be a big turnout, so being able to have a booth there to hand out the cards. Any other thoughts or ideas on ways we can get more subscribers to the e-news, April?
I felt like the fact that the council canvas last year was really effective. I don't know what the bandwidth is for council participation to do that again. But I felt like, number one, it was impactful because people really liked it that council was going door to door, and not just those that were up for election. But I mean, John, how many of those cards did you and I hand out? A couple hundred.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's a really good idea. I mean, I would be open to doing something like that. I don't know, we can float the idea around the rest of the council to see if, we would want to just do a, one weekend where we could all go out to a couple different locations and just hand out cards and knock on doors. I mean, now that we're past COVID, not necessarily past COVID, but in a better spot, I feel like maybe trying to do something like that could be cool, and we could wait till the fall before, like if we're gonna do something in August, maybe we do something September, October. That could be a counselor door-to-door canvassing thing. I'm sure residents would just appreciate that too.
April, I'd be interested to know, what are your thoughts on, do you think the school would be receptive to us posting flyers at schools about the town newsletter? Or do you think it's just too much noise where they're already trying to get announcements out and things like that? I just think of high traffic areas in town where maybe parents aren't, maybe they don't come into town hall all that often, but would have an interest in more general town news beyond just the school.
yeah, I mean, all of the schools have a bulletin board, for PTA news and parent news out front in the vestibule.
Mhm.
It's certainly worth an ask just to see if they wouldn't mind having some cards and a flyer. Sure.
I also think just general space around town hall, like every counter, we could probably have a stack of those cards.
We do that,
Okay,
yeah,
all
at
right,
the
good.
clerk's office,
Okay.
revenue,
And
out here.
planning.
now.
Okay.
We could do that. I have it in the library, I have it in community services at the hub. Yeah, and you just brought up a good point too about the school. I don't know if they do their district newsletter in the summer, but maybe as it gets back to school time, it could be a good time for a reminder that they put it in their newsletter about our
I
newsletter.
think that's great. That's a captive audience. We have all those email addresses of all the registered families in Scarborough. So I think asking them to slide that into, their district news is a great way to make sure that the parents have the same subscriber level as the rest of the residents.
One of the things we talked about at one point that we may just want to revisit with the school board is the district news and our e-news. Just making sure we have links on there for how you can sign up for either, because I know one of the things we've talked about on the district news, like that goes out to parents. And I think the superintendent has been communicating a lot of things about the new school, but it's only going to parents. It's not going to all residents. And so I think there is interest maybe in broadening their distribution so that it can be anybody who's interested in what's happening in the schools, not necessarily just for parents. And so again, a simple, just including the link, if there's a way to register, if they have that ability. But again, for us, if we can put, sign up for the Scarborough Town e-news, and then people can click it, then they can at least have that option and more promote it on their newsletter.
Yeah, like an ongoing thing.
Yeah,
Not
just
just one. Yeah. I
Like
like
a
that
little
idea.
thing at the bottom.
Right.
That people can see all the time.
Yeah.
Or again,
If we could get reciprocity with them,
Mhm.
the town link, it's just a consistent.
Right.
Motive, just
That'd be great.
availability.
yeah. And even some of the other ones, like Sedco has a really good one.
Psycho has one, yeah.
Community services, again, people might be interested. I think I get all of them. And so that's where what I worry is people getting too many, and then you kind of don't pay attention because you're getting so many newsletters, but if people want to sign up, they can sign up.
Yeah.
So
A couple website opportunities. One is with this new website, we have the ability of doing a pop-up on the home screen or on any page that we choose. And so if we wanted to, I could see there, like say the weekend that you go out canvassing door to door, maybe we could pair that with doing a pop-up on the website to do an email sign up. So not having it be like an ongoing thing that just becomes a nuisance, but something like as part of a scheduled campaign. And then also I'm working with Brian on, we have, so jot form for doing the surveys. If we start using that more for each survey, Brian can link it up to, where you could like toggle something or check box that you want to sign up for the newsletter too. So just creating more points of entry in other surveys or in other areas.
Yep.
So.
Great. So what I captured was, we'll try and target doing something at the Summerfest. And again, if there's already a booth that the town has that we can just leverage, I feel like that's fine. So we don't have to get something special. So if you guys could help us figure it
Yeah,
out.
we can
if
ask.
Any
community
of the other
services.
departments have something that we could just tag along on. So I'm happy to go. It sounds like you'll be available. I don't know, Counselor Seither, if you're available on the 19th. No.
I'm not, and that's why I think this is a great idea. I hate to say, oh, that's such a fantastic idea. I can't help, but I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, but we
But
can see if others,
This time I can't help.
yeah, I'm sure other people will be there. So
Okay.
hopefully we can get other people, other counselors who will be there to maybe come for like half an hour and just talk to people and hand it out. And then we'll do the election. Well, I like the idea of canvassing, so we can share that with the council and see if there's a certain date or time we would want to target that in September, or October. And then Allison, to your point, trying to like coincide that with some other things we could do to
Yeah.
draw attention to it.
Facebook ad.
Yeah.
It'd be good if it was all part of the same date, time range
Yeah.
span that we're thinking,
Like almost like
like a little campaign, yeah.
Yeah.
What time does Summerfest start?
I want to say 5 to
5.
5. Yeah. There's fireworks at the end, so it's a really good event. All right, so moving on to item 7, Counselor Corner schedule for August, September. So Counselor Hamel has said he would do 8:15,
Okay.
and I just want to make sure we at least plan for 9:1 and 9:15. I asked Chairman Clucci if he was interested in doing the 1st or the 15th, but I did the 1st and Counselor Hamel is doing the 15th. So if he's interested and he's in the room, so I'm going to ask him in doing maybe September 1st or potentially September 15th. First? Okay, okay.
Okay.
So we'll have Counselor Clucci do the 1st. Hamel do the 15th. And then the next 15th, you had mentioned you were interested in doing another one, I thought.
November 1st.
November 1st is we have that penciled in, slotted for you on November 1st. So I feel like Counselor Katerina hasn't done one in a while. So maybe I'll ask her if she wants to do September 15th.
Recap of our peaks vacation.
Well, there might be, you might know this, like when it comes to charter stuff, is that going to be around the 17th? Because that might be a good opportunity for her to do another charter update. Do you know when we're going to be updating or doing the votes or whatever? On the 17th? So that might be good for her to follow up on the 15th again, just even though it's a month later, to just remind folks of what's coming.
That's right, for the ballot.
Yeah.
To look for on the ballot.
Okay. All right. And then the last item, item 8, is public comment. Is there anybody in the public?
We have one person online. Yep, they've raised their hand. Noah, you should be all set to talk.
Hey, Noah Nygren, 16 Phillip Street. Thanks for hearing my public comment. I'd like to put in a quick couple of comments first about the town website, if I may. The first item is I'd like to request bringing back the full calendar view on the homepage. This used to be there, and I think it was more convenient than clicking past a couple of links. So If folks agree with me, then perhaps that's worth a little consideration. Second is a little more important. The homepage currently says one of the fastest growing communities in Maine. But per the Communications Committee survey, most Scarborough residents almost certainly do not support that wording. And also, especially after the revised GMO, I don't even think it's going to remain true. So I'd like to respectfully request the removal of this wording. We don't want to be known as just a big building lot in a good location that submits to developers. And if I were to suggest something that the town should actually be advertising, it would be about our marsh. I believe Jamie Fitch or another point of contact could probably make some good suggestions in no time. So the next item is I have a couple of questions that would have been good to include on the survey, or I guess the next survey. So the first question that might be good, I have these written down because it would be in the future, but it's the public sentiment of the economy, public sentiment of the real estate market, public sentiment of financial markets. The next would be, if the public can choose between slower growth or slower tax increases, which one does the public choose? Does public support the downs? Does public support contract zones? Does public support GMO exemptions? Does public support TIF districts? Does public support the CEA? And perhaps the most brutal, does public prefer apartments or single-family homes? So thank you for your valuable time and consideration. I might be back.
Thanks, Noah. Any response from counselors? All right, thanks, Noah. Appreciate your time. All right, and with that, item 9 is future agenda items. Are there any items in or April that you guys want to propose for future agenda?
I think you do a stellar job just coming up.
Okay, I'll keep doing that. April, anything on your end?
Nope, great job.
Allison or Liam, anything, guys? Okay, great. Then item 10 is adjournment. Can I get a motion?
So move.
Second,
All right, Counselor Scyther,
yes,
Counselor Johnson,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. All right, well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
great, thanks, guys.